Lollipop lady. What is a lollipop lady? Or a fire blanket? Do you wear it around the fire to keep you warmer? So today we got some bizarre and unusual words that if you're from another planet or you're from another country, these words might seem counterintuitive or just not very clever or well describing words. And often children are dumbfounded by these words. So we'll explain. Hello and welcome back to another English podcast with Paul. Welcome back to the dungeon or the carpet fort. Carpet fort? No, blanket fort. Yeah, it's a bit chilly these days. It's coming up to Christmas. So stick around, see what else is new, and maybe follow me on Instagram. Right then, so a lollipop lady or a lollipop man these days would be a person that helps children cross the road, often near a school, and they would be wearing extremely high visibility clothing, and they would have a round stick, a big round stick, and it says "Stop, children," and then it's on a pole, so they would carry it, and they would carry it out to the middle of the road, and they would put their hand up and make the traffic stop, so the children can cross the road safely to get to school. This is obviously where there's no zebra crossing or pedestrian crossing. So that's a lollipop lady or lollipop man. And often it's only at school time. So like in the afternoon at 3:30 and in the morning at, say, 9:15, something like that. And they are becoming less and less. I think the council don't want to pay for them. So that's a lollipop lady. All right. What about a dumb waiter? A dumb waiter. Now, we used to say somebody that was dumb normally means one or two things. Either they're stupid or they can't speak. So this dumb waiter you often find in restaurants or old posh houses would just be literally a box inside the wall that is connected to a rope or electronic these days, and it goes from floor to floor. So maybe the kitchen is downstairs and the dining area is upstairs. And this dumb waiter would be in the wall, just this box. And then you'd open up the door, put the food in and press the button or ring the bell, and then it would go up to the next flight. So that's a dumb waiter. You don't see many of those these days. Okay. What about a hot water bottle? So that's as it sounds, it's a hot water bottle. But many people in my country use them when they're not feeling very well. We'd have soup, and then if you have a bellyache or menstrual cycle, often women would have a hot water bottle with a nice cover, fluffy cover on it to keep their stomach warm. Apparently that really helps with controlling some of the aches and pains. So a hot water bottle. Okay, what else we've got? We've got a parcel shelf. So yeah, it sounds like you'd put parcels on it, but where or what is a parcel shelf? Actually, it's the thing we have in the back of the car, behind the back seats. That would be in front of the back window. I don't know why people would call it a parcel shelf, that you'd put parcels on it. You don't really do that these days, do you? Normally it's now for the dog or whatever. But that's a parcel shelf. Okay, what else? I've got loads here. I'm just choosing some of my favourite. What about a dustbin man or person or woman, whatever? So a dustbin man would be somebody that used to empty the dust bins, which is basically the household rubbish. Many years ago, it would have been like the ash from the fire, from the coal fire. Hence, there would be dust. A lot of time they used to put it into a pothole as well. Where your street has got holes, they would put the dust or the ash from the fire in there. But the dustbin man is still widely used. Dustbin man is 99% of the time it's men that used to do the lifting and do the rubbish or the garbage. And occasionally you'll see a lady with the recycling. I think maybe it's a little less heavy and a little less dirty. I don't know, but I've done some recycling and it was very dirty. All right, okay. The little green man. Now, obviously, there's no actual real green man, but the traffic lights and the crossing for pedestrians, for people, in this neck of the woods, in this country, we call it a little green man, and you have to wait for him. So when we teach children about crossing the road safely, we always refer to the little green man. Green means go, and so that means you're allowed to walk across the road. All right, little green man. What about a counterweight? Counterweight. Now, a counterweight is something you might have on some scales. If they're balanced naturally by gravity, you might put your potatoes or your vegetable on one side, and then you'd put a counterweight on the other side to balance it out. And then the amount of counterweights you put on would be the weight of the vegetables or what you have on the other side. So that's a counterweight. We also have them on crane. Like a big mobile crane, you have a counterweight on there as well to help balance out what the crane is lifting. Okay. Scotch mist. You won't hear that very often, but Scotch mist. I'm not quite sure what Scotch mist is. If you know what it is, let me know in the comments. Scotch mist. I think it's something very, very rare, like what we would say hen's teeth. You know, chickens and hen's teeth, or rocking horse poo, as we might say. All right, something very, very rare. Scotch mist. About going back to ladies and men, we got a dinner lady. That would be a woman that can be a man, I suppose, but it predominantly has been women that would only work at lunchtime to support the children having their food. So they might be out on the playground watching the children play whilst the teachers get on with other work, or they might be actually serving up food at lunchtime for the children. So we would call them a dinner lady. What about a tree surgeon? Now, he doesn't necessarily have a stethoscope, but a tree surgeon is a man often used the term to chop down trees. You know, the tree surgeon would know a lot about a tree and could tell you whether it's dead, diseased, or dangerous, and whether or not there's a tree preservation order on this tree. He could look it up and things like that. So a tree surgeon, often a man who chops down trees or trims a tree, things like that. Pollard a tree, coppice a tree. Okay, you could Google those, pollard and coppicing. A horseshoe. A horseshoe. So we don't talk about other animals in their shoes, but we give the horses a metal shoe to help their hooves last longer, and I guess to help them walk more on the roads, I think. I don't know a lot about horses. If you know a lot about horses, let me know below in the comments. What about a lighthouse? You might have heard the term a lighthouse. That's normally a big tower very near or in the sea, and it has a light revolving around the top, and that would and sometimes a foghorn, and that would be there to help sailors navigate the treacherous waters and the coastline and the rocky paths away around the island. So it's a big tall tower, often sort of conical at the bottom to allow the waves to swoop up. A lighthouse. Okay. So then what about a greenhouse? It's not painted green, before you ask. No, it's not green. A greenhouse, funnily enough, is a small shed made of glass to help grow your plants or your flowers. Often we use it in the UK for tomatoes and propagating other small vegetation. So on the same line, we also have a summer house. So a summer house is, as you might think, ideal for the summer, that you can sit in and relax and maybe have a drink and watch the children and look at your garden from another perspective. Often it'll be at the bottom of the garden, might have some glass in there, and it's just a place to relax and chill out, away from your house, but probably still in your garden. All right, so we've got a lighthouse, a greenhouse, a summer house. What about an outhouse? Now this is going back a lot more to the 60s, 1960s and 1970s. An outhouse is a toilet. You go outside of the building and to the back of your garden or courtyard, whatever you had, and there would be a toilet there. I think it might be at the beginning of sewerage and things like that. It was easier to put it back there. All right, so there you go. You got a lighthouse, a greenhouse, a summer house, and an outhouse. There's a lot of houses. All right. What else we got? We got a man cave, and that's not a cave full of men. That's just an affectionate term for a space where men can have their toys, like motorbikes and cars, or hammers and drills and things like this. Things that men enjoy. A man cave. All right. Talking to men. What about cuff links? Cuff links. So the cuff is this bit by your wrist. And on my shirt, let me get it up here. This bit here with the button, the button and the buttonhole, on some expensive and posh shirts, like for weddings and formal engagements. You don't have a button, you'd have cufflinks, which is a little, often metal, I guess, little emblem or a picture or something you like. In a shape that you like, and it's got a little pin on it, and then at the end you can turn the end, so you can poke it through the two holes, and then lift up the other end so it stays in place, and that makes your shirt look very elegant and much more formal wear, much more professional and pretty. So that's a cufflink. So that's cuffs. What about handcuffs? So handcuffs are what the police use to restrain you. Sometimes you could also use them for the bedroom, if that's what you're into. Handcuffs. All right. So I mentioned about men and houses and handkerchiefs. So a handkerchief is a big tissue that you blow your nose in. You'd blow your nose in a handkerchief, probably white, square. Often you can get it embroidered. So sewn with your initials in. Again, another show of financial wealth. And then you'd have it tucked, just poking out the top of your jacket pocket. That's a handkerchief. A whole story of that, about when a woman might drop her handkerchief for a man to pick up and then engage in conversation with hopefully maybe going on a date. So that's how things were traditionally in the UK. Handkerchief. So I mentioned a fire blanket. Fire blanket is a piece of material that would look like a blanket, and it's meant to put over the fire to put the fire out in an emergency situation. So often in a camper van or a caravan, and often in professional kitchens, you would have a fire blanket. So let's just say you have a big pot of oil and you're cooking chips or you're cooking something and you have a pan fire. You can place the fire blanket over the top and it will extinguish the fire. And you're supposed to leave it there for a while. So a fire blanket. All right. Also, I've got an iron lung. That's very different and very unusual. Just visualizing an iron lung. A lung made out of iron is not made out of iron. So an iron lung is a contraption that you'll lie down in, and it's all around your neck and then the rest of your body. It's only your head that pops out the top. And it's a medical device to help people with poor lungs back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. I can't remember the disease that people would get, but they would have to spend time in an iron lung to allow pressure on their lungs to re-inflate. So it's a big medical device that you lie down in. An iron lung. Very rarely hear that. All right. Just a few more. Food. Now, good topic. I like food. Have you ever heard of bubble and squeak? So bubble and squeak is normally leftovers from a roast dinner on a Sunday. So Sunday you have the roast dinner and you keep some of it back. Often it's potato and vegetables. And I think that's the sound it used to make, bubble and squeak. But that's a very famous dish that people miss, that we don't get very often. Bubble and squeak. Talking of food again, we've got Welsh rabbit. Welsh comes from the term Wales, which is part of the UK, Wales, and rabbit is toast. So this is cheese melted on top of the toast. Welsh rabbit, often dressing with a bit of brown sauce or HP sauce. Welsh rabbit. What about toad in the hole? Another visual representation of a strange situation. Toad, which is like a frog, in a hole. But actually, this is just sausages in like a Yorkshire pudding batter that's cooked in the oven. So you have this batter which goes brown and rises up, and then you have sausages in between. Again, used to be a very famous dish back in the 70s and 80s. It's really nice. Lots of lashings and lashings of gravy. Okay, last one then. Pigs in blankets. Still often used and had at Christmas. Often you can buy them now. But pigs in blankets was often miniature sausages wrapped up in a little bit of bacon, normally streaky bacon, the cheaper cut of bacon. Pigs in blankets. Often you'd get it, like I say, at Christmas time. Again, with lashings of gravy or other condiments. All right, okay. Changing the subject a little bit now, but still on animals. What about a ponytail? A ponytail. Now, that's not from a horse or a pony, but it's normally when a man or a woman would have a long hair and they would put a band around it. So then you'd have this ponytail. Very famous in the 80s in London and in Britain. This ponytail. So famous, in fact, that you can actually buy a clip-on, a fake ponytail. People would have a fake ponytail. I know, very, very odd. All right, okay. What about a tea towel? A tea towel. So it's not really a towel for drying tea, but it's for drying the dishes. So in the UK, we'd wash up the dishes and then we'd put them on the airer or the rack, the drying rack, next to the sink. And then you'd have something like a tea towel, which would be something like this, which is, I don't know, what would you say, like 40 centimeters by 30 centimeters. And it's kind of like a thick material, not wool, but a thick material for absorbing and mopping up the bubbles and the residue of water from the plates and the cups and the glasses, because you might want to put them away and not leave them out. So that's a tea towel. All right, what about a bulldog clip? I think I've normally got one here somewhere. Hang on. There we go. This is a bulldog clip. It's used as part of stationery, and it's a metal sprung clip, almost like a peg, a clothes peg, but it's for holding a lot of paper together. And you pinch it between your thumb and your finger, and you open it up, and you can put in lots and lots of sheets of paper to keep them together, whether it's part of your homework or your essay or in a work office environment. A bulldog clip. Now, people in Britain and England talk a lot about bulldog. We used to play a game called British Bulldog, where children would run back and forth and one person would have to catch them. And also there's a famous bulldog, the British Bulldog, short, stout dog. I don't know if that's where it gets its name, because it's like teeth and it's strong. I don't know. Bulldog clip. Okay, last couple now. What about a drawing pin? A drawing pin. Normally something a bit like this. So it's normally kind of brass looking, and it's like a metal, and it's got a very thin pin, almost like a nail, with a big fat round head. Okay, and we use that for using on a drawing board, or we might use it for what's a drawing board, you might say? Is a board of cork, made of cork, and you can put pictures on there or writing or important information you want to keep. A bit like on a fridge. These days you put your stuff on a fridge and you hold it out with a magnet, a fridge magnet. Well, this is a similar sort of thing. Maybe you've got a notice board and you'd use a drawing pin to push that a hole through the paper and hold it on the notice board. So that's a drawing pin. And kind of similarly for a pin, pins and needles. Now that sounds like two different things, pins and needles. But in the UK, it means that your part of your body is gone all tingly and numb and missing feeling. Maybe you've sat down on your hand, or maybe you've had your legs crossed for too long, and then you get up and try and walk, and then you go, ow, 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 ow. Pins and needles, pins and needles. There we go. There are loads and loads more. If you want to share down in the comments some of your favourite bizarre English phrases or words or things that you've got no idea what they mean, then just put them down in the messages and we'll see how many we can get through. But I've got loads and loads more. Right, that's it for today. Have a good Christmas. Well, nearly Christmas. I'll see you in the next video. Take care for now. Bye-bye. See you soon.